Abby Peterson, how are you, dude?
What's up, man? Like Lacasse, one of my heroes. Gosh,
Dude, you're one. That's ridiculous coming from you, dude.
yeah,
And I don't want to make this too corny, too early on, but we met a while ago now. Probably, let's see, beginning of COVID, right?
right,
2020.
right.
It feels like we've known each other longer than that, though, doesn't it?
It does. Feels like we've known each other since we was little, I suppose.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree.
yeah.
Well, something
We talk pretty regular on the phone, and we have some good conversations. So yeah,
that's true.
yeah.
So how the heck? I earlier I was here. I can't hear him now, but you had some chainsaws running. What's
Yeah.
going on over there?
We got an order for 404 foot, or excuse me, 204 footers.
Oh my
204
gosh!
footers. We got to get done pretty quick. Uh,
Wow.
yeah. I just I've done one practice piece for Chetwin, and
Hmm.
I'm working on a second one. I was able to sell the first one for big bucks. So that's good.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah, I don't know if you have a picture of that, but do you mind if I show it off?
No, I don't. I don't want to show it yet. Not yet. I
Okay.
can tell the.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Yeah, right. Of
I
course
just don't
not.
want to give away your wow factor.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me about that. When did you first start competing at Chatwin?
Last year was my
And
first
maybe
year
and
at
maybe explain and maybe explain what that is too.
All right, Chetwin's it's the World Series of chainsaw carving. It's the Super Bowl of chainsaw carving, and so they take 12 carvers from all over the world. Generally, they take four Americans, four Canadians, four internationals,
Okay.
and they cut down one western red cedar tree. Last year it was 440 years old, and they you get an 8 foot
Wow.
section of it, and then you just go. You get 35 hours, three 10-hour days and one 5-hour day.
Wow.
And you better know what you're doing, because them boys don't play around.
And they stop you at the 8 hour mark?
They stop you at the 10-hour mark.
The 10 hour mark.
You
Okay.
get three 10-hour days and one 5.
Okay. Okay, so you get 35 hours.
Yeah, so it's an honor really just to get invited. It's a huge honor. It's a huge badge on your shoulder. You can't apply for this one, or you can't do anything like that, but you can just
Wow.
they just watch the carving world, and it was always my dream to be invited to Chatwin since I started carving.
Wow.
But yeah, so yeah, and then I'm going back there June 5th. Yeah,
June 5th.
yeah. I carved the leaping elk last year, and I got first place with it. I got first place in People's Choice.
Can we show that one?
Yeah, you can show that one.
All right, let me see if I can pull up that picture while
So
you're talking.
I was lucky enough to not only I was carving ice in Alaska when I
Hmm.
got the invite last year. I was so over the moon. Yeah.
This is an incredible piece, and let's see if I can turn this out. Unreal. So this is the fact that you did this in 35 hours.
Yeah, 35 hours.
That's
35
unreal.
hours. That was a 32-inch log.
32-inch log.
Yeah,
That's cedar?
Western red cedar. Yeah.
Wow. And how big is this? Because it's hard to see in this
Um,
picture.
Time I think it was about 11 foot wide by the time I got done.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, it was a cool piece.
Unbelievable.
That was a lot of practice. Practice drawing. I bet I sketched it 100 times.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you like to sketch?
Yeah, I try to sketch every day, and I wish I was a little
Yeah.
more diligent about it. But
Yeah, same.
sketching definitely makes you a better carver.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of guys say, "Well, I can't sketch." Well, I think if they'd put the time into it, they could.
Right.
Right. I feel like I can carve better than I can sketch, but I just want to be able to gesturally sketch to where I can get my ideas across. If I got an idea I'm trying to explain to you, if I can sketch it out, that helps a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. That's huge.
I would uh,
So, yeah.
I would like to say some things I've learned about competition pieces. There's a couple things that I try to do. I try to read the judging criteria,
Hmm.
and then I try to look at it and nail that.
Hmm.
I want it to be 15 out of 10, and I ask myself,
Hmm.
how am I going to get the full points? How can they not deny me the full points? you know.
Hmm.
And then the other things I look for, if it was just I don't know what you call it, a GIF, or just a black silhouette, you know.
Yeah.
I want that silhouette to be exciting
Hmm.
from any angle that you walk around it. Does that
Hmm.
make sense?
Yeah. Makes a lot of
And then
sense.
you want to try to get movement into it. You want full
Hmm.
movement. You want. I'm learning a lot about this these triangles and this dynamic movement.
Hmm.
It actually I think it stems from Japanese floral designs. You're looking for an irregular triangle that just makes it
Hmm.
so much more exciting. I learned it from Chris, actually,
Huh.
from Chris Polk. Yeah,
Yeah.
part of it, and I read partially about
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
it.
Actually, triangles are the most structurally in building, and you know about building
Yeah,
because you did that for a very long time, right?
sure,
It's the strongest structure, right? So
right.
so maybe that's part of it where when you see it, it looks
Oh,
dynamic and strong.
sure, sure. Another thing is don't you know, you can carve a soldier. We call them carving soldiers. That's just where their
Yeah.
feet are straight below them. You know, they're just right here. I don't know if you can see me, but
Right.
they're just
Yeah.
dead. They're just
Right.
dead. I know you can't see me, but
Yeah.
let's say I carve an Indian shooting a bow, right? Boom.
Right.
Feet
Yeah.
are on the same level. But let's
Yeah.
do this. Let's kick a leg up. I don't know if you can see me.
Yeah.
Stand forward, and bam.
Yeah.
And then you get so much more dynamic. It's cool.
So much more.
Yeah. And
So then the feet are on different planes, right?
different planes, and that's the bottom
You've
part
got
of the
that.
triangle. And then the
You've got
head
that
doesn't
angle.
need to be over the feet.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I carved this one native one time, and he was on a flat level ground. And sometimes you can get caught up in measuring, like like head proportions, get everything proportionally correct.
Hmm.
But sometimes I feel like you can kill the movement of the piece. So I had him
Hmm.
sitting there and he's shooting, but this piece was just dead, you know, and I didn't dig it.
Hmm. Yeah.
But then after I learned why, because his feet were on the same plane, one
Hmm.
head was over this foot, you know, and then looking back, now if I would have raised one foot, the front
Hmm.
foot, uh,
Hmm.
raised it above the other one about a foot, and then
Hmm.
really leaned him into the pose, that gets so much more exciting.
Hmm. That's so important.
Yeah,
I can see that. You know, the first person to tell me about that and to really make me think about it was Vic Hood.
sure, sure. I got to show you this. So Vic come up and he wanted to try chainsaw carving an eagle. So I spent a half day chainsaw carving an eagle with him. We had a good time.
That's awesome.
But then
I heard about that.
when I got home from South Dakota, this was in the mail. Can you see that?
How cool is that?
Yeah. So
That's
Vic this
awesome.
carving as a thank you. I thought it was really cool.
That's so sweet. What a
Yeah,
gentleman.
yeah. I was really proud of it. Yeah. So that was cool. One other thing. So I got one of my customers. He comes and buys stuff. It always makes me feel so guilty. So he'll come
Mm.
buy us a couple carvings, and then he will. I'll get done. He'll say, "Well, I got something for you in the truck," and I'm like, "Are you the same guy that made my truck? You know, I showed you my truck. He just made
Mm.
me this one of me.
You're kidding.
So how cool is that?
Oh my gosh.
So he whittled that, and yeah, it's like the I don't know, it's like the Charlie Brown version of me, I think.
Oh my gosh, that's
Yeah.
cool.
So
Look at that. And the book itself says it has your name on it.
yeah, it says wood-like sculpture, and it says the eternal pursuit of perfection. You
Wow.
get the little chainsaw. Look, that is a
Wow.
that is a chainsaw carving. Literally,
That's a chainsaw carving.
a really small chainsaw.
That's
So that was cool.
wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So for people who don't know that this guy made you a full replica of like of a truck, right?
Right.
And on the inside, when you open up the back door,
Sure.
there's this carved version of your shop. Like he carved every book and every little, you know, he made every little trinket in your shop, like down to the what I'm trying to remember, like to the piece of driftwood that you have on your wall. And
The driftwood above my fireplace, and even took note of how my son laid the rocks on the behind the stove. He was doing really neat at first, and by the end, he was just like, "God, we got to get this done, Dad." He even took that, and put in there. So yeah,
it's amazing, unreal how cool that is, and he has it lit from the inside, and
right, right.
that's so
And
cool.
he wouldn't let me pay him for it. He just said, "No, I just
Wow,
give it away to people that inspire me." So that was super cool. His name's Mike Hansen.
that's a cool
Mike Hansen.
Mike Hansen.
Yeah. His wife Debbie paints it all for him. Yeah, super cool stuff.
Wow.
He's a pretty good carver in his own right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for real.
Yeah.
So your history, I mean, we could talk about all the projects you have going on, and I think we could fill the whole podcast with that. But
Sure.
a little, I mean, and I know this is like a typical question, but I can't answer in my head. I can't remember exactly how you transitioned from building to carving.
Uh-huh.
Was carving?
Sure. So I had a construction business. I had it going on pretty good, but then had some bad stuff happen in life, and I got really depressed. It was the one time in my life I was like super depressed, and I just
Hmm.
so when I was younger, I worked at the wildlife sanctuary, and so
Wow.
I felt like I needed to find myself, and that's 4,500 acres, lots of wildlife. They rehabilitate wildlife, so I thought, well, I'll go back and I'll work at the wildlife sanctuary. And so
Wow.
we'd been cleaning fence rows, just so the trees don't fall on the fences, the different pastures. And so
Hmm.
I was leaving work one day, and the sun was going down, and I'd worked really hard all day, and I thought the sun was going to be so beautiful, the trees and the sunset. And I said kind of something similar to this prayer. I don't remember exact, but it was God, I got this emptiness inside of me. I feel this void that I don't know if I'll ever fill it, but I'm asking for your help. I will meet you more than halfway. I will do whatever you want me to do, and just help me fill this void, and I'll make it happen.
Hmm.
And so I come home and took a shower and went to bed, and had to be at work at 7 the next morning working. I had that old school boss that was just like crack the whip. So I was in the woods at 7 by myself, probably 2 miles into the woods, and there was a stump there, and I had kind of a timber saw, and I wasn't very good at sharpening the saw either then. And something said, I mean, at 7 a.m. that morning, I mean, that prayer was at 9 o'clock that night, and then at 7 a.m. that morning, here I'm standing in the woods, and something said, carve a bear head in that stump there. And so I carved a bear head, and it was pretty crude. It was really crude, but I was inspired. And so I come home, and I was so inspired. I carved me one. I carved me a full. It was about a 4 foot bear. I got a picture of my daughter with it. My daughter's
Hmm.
in her first year of college now, and she was like 3 foot tall standing beside this bear, and she was
Wow.
so proud. It's one of my favorite pictures. So I carved this bear, and I thought, man, that's going to be a family heirloom. I'm going to have that sucker for. I wasn't really planning on being a carver. I just wanted the bear. And then, so this guy come in the shop the next day, and he said, man, I got to have that bear. And I'm like, man, you ain't getting that bear. It's going to be a family heirloom. It's going to be passed down for 40 generations. And I said, plus I'm really
Right.
sore, and I used a dull saw to carve that piece of oak. I didn't know where to wood. He said, well, I'll give you $200 for it. And at that point, I was pretty well eating bologna on a penny budget. I
Right.
thought, well, I can carve another one. And so he took that one. We loaded it. He took it. And so then I carved another one. Well, then I got a friend of mine that's extremely wealthy. And so it's an older woman. She's almost 90 now. She's extremely
Hmm.
wealthy. And she had done something nice for me. So I said, I'd carved a second bear to replace my first family heirloom. And I had a Sunday afternoon conversation with her, and I thought, you know what? I'm gonna I'm going to give that bear to this lady. You know, when's the last time somebody gave a multi-millionaire woman a bear, you know? And not want nothing in return. And I did not want anything in return. And so I went home and I loaded up my second bear and I took it to her. And she said, "Oh, let me pay you for it, you know." And I said, "Well, I don't want no money." I said, "That ain't what this was about. I just wanted you to have the bear." She's a chain smoker too, and she got that rough chain smoker's voice. And she said, "Oh, I'm gonna name it Smokey," you know. And then she said, "No, I'm gonna name it Carlton after my cigarettes." But anyway, yeah, you know, I sit there and I visited with her for 2 or 3 hours, and she kept offering to pay me, you know. And I said, "No, I don't want no money, you know. I wanted this to be a gift," and I truly did. But then, you know, I looked down and, you know, her dogs are eating extremely well, and she's doing all right. And I thought, you darn done it, you dummy. If she offers you money again, you know, you're eating peanuts on a penny budget. You might already take a few bucks, you know, you at least get a good meal.
Hmm.
And so then I was getting ready to leave, and I said, "Well, I'm getting ready to leave, Miss Tobin." And I said, "I'll see you later," you know. And she said, "Here, I want to give you some money." And I thought, you know, so she said, "I want to give you some money for the bear." And I said, "Okay, if you want to give me a little something, that'd be okay." Because I knew it wasn't going to hurt her, and I knew it was extremely going to benefit me, even though that ain't the intention I had. She handed me a wad full of money. I got in my truck, and it was $900.
Wow.
So I was like, "Holy cow, I'm a chainsaw carver. I'm going to sell $1,000 bears, and I'm going to be rich. You know, I'm going to be filthy, stinking rich from." So I'd start doing a little research then. Now that's when my chainsaw carving life started. And so then I come home and I research. I found out pine was the best wood to use, you know, for chainsaw carving. So I found me some pine. I didn't know nothing about nothing. And it was a cold day, and I was in my shop, and I kind of cracked the door, but I carved 10, 10 like 4 foot bears in one day. I was speed carving, essentially, still with a dull saw and not knowing what I was doing. And they were the ugliest damn bears you ever seen. But so after that, it took me like a year to give these bears away. You know, sell one for $25 here and $50. And actually, I kept one, and it was an ugly bear. But that's thousands of bears ago, and so I can carve a pretty nice bear in that. Yeah, but that's how I got
No
started,
kidding.
and it's
Wow.
never looked back. I always look for a chance to kind of share my story. So if you're out there and you're struggling emotionally or mentally or physically or financially, and you think you'd like to chainsaw carve, you know, all it takes is a chainsaw. You don't need all these fancy tools. You can literally carve something with a chainsaw.
It's
So,
true.
so yeah, and I've met.
It's true, isn't it?
It is true. It is true. I mean, the fancy tools make things cool, make things easier sometimes. But
Right.
if I had to start over with $100 chainsaw from a pawn
Hmm.
shop, I could make something happen. That's
Hmm.
actually the challenge I want to ask you. I want us sometime to make one for video content for you. I want to do $100 challenge. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're both get $100, and you get to go to the pawn shop. And the only rule is you have to buy a chainsaw, and you can buy a butter knife if you want and sharpen it. And I know
Right.
you're pretty good at that. But I want us to just take $100 bill, go to the pawn shop, buy whatever crappy Poland wild thing we can. You know, a screwdriver. We're going to sharpen it for a chisel, and and then whoever makes $1,500 first out of that $100 carving, that would be a fun video journey. You know.
That's a great idea. I love that idea of selling it because you mentioned it before, but I don't remember the selling it piece. That's a cool.
Right.
That'd
Oh
be a cool.
yeah, yeah. So what I
Yeah.
kind of like to do, the goal of the video would be to take $100 bill and buy a $500 chainsaw. You know, that's kind of the cream of the crop in chainsaws, and I think they're about $1,800. So the first one to come back with a $500, you know, that would be cool. Off
Right.
a $100
Yeah.
bill, that would be.
That would be awesome. We'll have to make it. So you start carving. Um, I mean, now you're world. You're literally world championship chainsaw carver. People know your name in the chainsaw carving world. What is what happens between then and now?
Oh, a lot happened. I spent like the 5 years before COVID, I was beating the road down, and I was competing somewhere
Hmm.
probably 3 weekends a month from March until November. And it
Wow.
wasn't necessarily to compete. I've got an extreme competitive drive, but it was more just to be somewhere I could sell carvings because I live in the
Hmm.
country, and then I sell a few carvings out of the shop, but it's not, you know, I don't, I don't sell a lot. So I was
Right.
carving at home, and I was taking them out on the road, and I made my living that way for 5 years.
Wow.
And sometimes I miss the competition scene, the weekly competition scene.
Right.
Sometimes you know, you're sleeping in a box trailer. I've slept in a box
Hmm.
trailer a lot of nights.
Hmm.
You're driving a lot of hours. It's physically demanding. It's mentally demanding. It's
Hmm.
financially demanding. So part of the reason I always competed so hard is so I can continue to do it was just to for the financial aspect of it.
Right. Right.
So I've carved, all the way up into New York, all the way out west and back, in competition.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I miss there's kind of a brotherhood about it. There's a huge
Hmm.
friendship, and I got friends that I talk to on a regular basis.
That's
You
cool.
know that we with when you step in the carve, you want to win, but it also makes you happy when your friends would win. That was
Hmm.
super cool.
Hmm. It's huge.
Yeah. So let's talk.
Yeah, it's
Let's talk about the first time that you quit carves with me.
sure.
So Alec's down here, and he's doing some filming on another carver. And so I look at Alec and I said, Alec, have you ever done a quick carve? And he said, what's a quick carve? And I'd seen Alec kind of quick carve and bark. He'll put a time.
Yeah.
I said, well, let's carve. I said, we'll do it together. Let's carve a 3 foot Indian bust. I said, I'll block it out and you chisel it in an hour. And you were on fire, dude. You could tell you was walking on air when we got that thing done. And I love the video you made of it. It's good stuff.
Yeah. That was amazing for me because I hadn't seen you carve up to that point. I mean, that was the first time I had met you. I had seen your work multiple times on the internet before, but I had never watched you carve.
Right,
So that was mind blowing. I remember just being like blown away at the fact that you had this massive, you had this saw that you could wield with this sort of finesse to get all these shapes of like the head tilted back with the hair flowing and this base with all this, you talk about like a base that has movement.
sure.
you know any bases that I had come up with in the past, it's like a box with a chamfer,
Right, right.
and you had this crazy cool like texture that you had been doing, and that you had been able to do in just like a few minutes.
Sure.
It was like, so I just remember thinking, well, this guy's got a really good sense of composition to be able to make something look that good in, I think it was like 20 or 30 minutes. I
Sure.
mean, within 20 minutes you had it ready and you gave me the rest of the time to hand carve
Sure.
on it. And we just both knew, I think, from that first collab that we were going to do it again.
Well, my
You
thing
know,
is, when I go to hand carving, it takes me forever. I can't. I've got
yeah,
faster, but so you're quick with
yeah,
the hand carving, and I'm quick with the saw. So yeah, it
yeah.
works out good.
It's so fun.
Those
It's so fun to get the combination.
those last five Indian busts we carved together, I
Mm-hmm.
traded them for 2007 Tahoe. So
Did you
mint
really?
condition. Yeah, it's super cool.
That's hilarious.
Yeah,
That's
so
cool.
that's super cool.
That's fun.
Yeah,
That's cool. Mine, that's because you actually finished them.
right, right, exactly.
Mine are, mine are sitting in a garage right now.
Sure,
So,
sure,
but I gotta get out there and button them up. That's one thing about you. I was telling my buddy and I came out. My video guy
sure,
Sam we came and like you said, we knocked out like, what was it, 10 carvings
sure,
or 11
sure.
carvings between the one that you knocked out
Right.
at the end there. And I just remember leaving there and Sam just looking at me and being like, "That guy knows how to work.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy knows how to
Sure.
work. He really gets it done." and that stuck with both of us when we left. Is it like when you're doing stuff? I'm reading right now about Theodore Roosevelt,
Sure.
and I believe that he was probably one of the greatest
Oh,
presidents that we
I
ever
agree
had,
completely.
right? And for many reasons, but one of the things that I found relatable to him was that, and I think it relates to you, is that he wasn't necessarily the guy that was working really really hard the entire day every day,
Right.
but when he was working, he was fully immersed. I mean, he was so efficient. Like when he read a book, he'd read the book in a day,
Sure.
and he'd sit down and read the whole
Sure.
book. And it was like that sort of like dedication. Like that's to me, that's attainable. Like short spurts of really intense
Sure.
focus is like it's a little bit more attainable for me at
Sure.
least. And I saw you being able to maintain a level of of intense work
Right.
that's so much longer than mine. So I just thought that was cool.
Yeah. I usually get up and I work every day. I work at something or towards something, you know.
Yeah.
Everybody says, "Well, you make so much money chainsaw carving." Well, I don't get to carve a lot. You know, I'm driving an hour away to pick up logs,
Yep.
or going to fix a saw, or fix a trailer, or fix a truck, or it's always fixing something.
Right.
And then sometimes you just gotta. Sometimes when you're grooving, you know. And having buddies
Yeah.
around like you, that just fires me up and throws me right into that groove, especially with
Yeah.
inspiration, you know.
It's so true, man. For me too. I was exhausted. I mean, last time I came to your place, I was like right on the verge of getting sick. I wasn't sick,
Sure.
but then when I got home, I got sick.
Sure.
And but uh but when when I'm feeling good, I mean, I'm just using
Right.
every muscle fiber, every bit of brain power I have just to knock out
Sure.
as much as we can.
Sure.
And it's a cool thing.
I don't necessarily speed carve much anymore, but I used to love it.
Yeah.
There was one time, and I've learned too, if you speed carve for 3 or 4 days, you
Yeah.
lose, then you're just like beat. You're a man. If you lose a competition, you're just like your whole body hurts. But if you can speed
Hmm.
carve and win, you're not sore at all. Yeah, it looks like ain't no big deal. So I carved one time. I carved 47 pieces in Tupper Lake, New York, in three
Wow.
and a half days. And,
Oh my gosh.
Alonzo, Alonzo Montoya, he carved 18 pieces, and it's an
Yeah.
auction-based deal. His pieces were nicer than mine because I was rushing a lot. But I mean, 6 foot bears, wings up eagles, lots of crazy stuff. And he beat me by $30, you know. And so then
Wow.
and so I was just defeated, you know. And I had never really carved anything happy at that point. Everything I was going for was like realism. And what
Hmm.
I've since learned is realism don't auction as well as happy.
Huh.
And so got in the truck on Monday morning. I drove to the middle of Iowa to another endurance competition. And over the course of 3.5 days, I carved 47 pieces again. But every one of them was happy. And
Huh.
I think I was like $6,000 out in front of second place. And so
Wow.
then I started changing my competition thinking. And
Hmm.
I met back up with Alonzo. And Alonzo, we had this joke going because when I first met Alonzo, he lives up there by you somewhere actually. And
Yeah.
so he was really I beat him like the first 4 or 5 competitions I was ever up against him. And then all of a sudden he went on a tear and he beat me for like 7 or 8. Well, at one competition there was a guy helping clean up and he talked about he grew up with brothers and every time up one of them had a school picture or when they got married, the other brothers held him down and blacked his eye. So he said you go in his mom's house and there's all these pictures on the wall and they all got black eyes. So I told Alonzo, I said, that's it. From now on, whoever gets first place, the other carvers are going to get him down and black his eye. And and so then I started winning though. I started beating him again. So he's always shaking his fist at me, you know. And I don't know where I
That's
was going with
awesome. That's a good story. So you're competing, you know, Chatwin, you're coming up to Chatwin. Like, what? Obviously, you're not going to talk about the design, but how does that? How do you come up with stuff? Like, where do you get these ideas from? Are you drawing to start out,
Yeah,
or
I
you
sketch a lot. So
you do?
sketch almost every night. And then
Hmm.
I try to look for things that are going to judge well. They even, yeah, try to look for things that are dynamic, you know, for things with wow factor. A lot of times you got to, that Chatwin's kind of known for cutting your log apart and putting it back together.
Yeah.
So if you don't have 25 or 30 pieces out of one log, it's hard to compete. And it's really
Wow.
just an honor to be there. Even if you go there and you
Yeah.
don't place, it's you know, yeah, it's just an honor just to be there. As much,
That's cool.
because you want to win, but if you don't, you're still just honored. You're just as honored. Yeah,
Right.
and it's really cool to get to hang out with that caliber of guys. You know, that's
Right.
yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward
Yeah.
to it. I'm looking super forward to it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So you'll do a drawing, and is that it as far as the prep stages
No,
go,
I'm
or do you?
kind of. I believe. I used to not prepare for the judge competitions. Just kind of wing it. You know, because as a carver, you can wing it, and there's some really successful carvers that can wing it. But for
Right.
me, that never really worked. So a lot of times I'll carve a half scale model and then a 3/4 scale model and then I'll do a full scale model.
Wow.
But it really pays off, because I just done this. I done a 5/8 scale model and sold it for big money. Yeah. So
Right.
that's cool. That's cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's cool. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward. Gosh dang. Chetwin, there's going to be, let's talk about the guys. Brandon Croon's going to be there from Australia. KO's
Hmm.
going to be there from Japan. Um,
That's right. He's amazing. He's a hero. Right.
yeah, and so I just saw one guy. I think Joel Schwartz had dropped out from Colorado, and so Mike Ayers is going to be there. He's a phenomenal
Yeah.
carver, and then there'll
Hmm.
be I don't know why I'm drawing a blank now, but it's an all-star crew.
You're
It's
good.
an all-star crew.
Yeah. No doubt. I mean, I was looking at the roster last year. I mean,
Right?
so many
Yeah.
guys.
Ryan
You
Village.
got also does Ryan? Yep.
Yeah, Ryan will compete again this year. He's phenomenal.
Yeah.
He caught
He
that
is.
surfer last year, and it was like, man, that might be tough to beat. Yeah. And so,
Yeah. You did it though.
yeah.
You beat it.
Yeah.
You beat it. It's amazing, man. It's again, it's so cool to see you. Is that how you think you got so fast? Like, how did you? Were you always fast as a chainsaw carver, or how did you build that speed up? Because that's the thing about you is like you can do things that maybe a professional carver could do in a few days. You can do it in just a couple of hours or
I think
less.
it's I think a lot of it's from repetition. Yeah,
Yeah,
and the more I carve, the
it's
better I
crazy.
eat. So
Yeah. Right.
yeah, part of it, like Josh is out here, one of my apprentices. He's I think he's on like his 40th Bigfoot in the last 2 weeks. Yeah.
Wow.
So and he's getting kind of bored with him, but it's causing him to push the. He's got a big belly on one and a big butt, and he's he messed up the other day and he had to glue a new face on because there was a knot right in the face. And then he
Yeah.
realizes he can really push that face out there. And then all of a sudden you get those little nuances that you can't get without repetition. You
Hmm.
know.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense that you yeah, that's the beauty of doing it every day, right?
Sure. Sure. And then once you make that full time leap and you're able to carve every day, yeah, you
Yeah.
just keep getting better and better, better and
Yeah.
better.
So when did that happen? When did you start
It was like
completely?
2016. 2016, I went to Ridgeway. I pulled into Ridgeway, and I've been carving and doing a few little things. Maybe 2016, and then in 2016, I went to Ridgeway, and I get into Ridgeway, and I'm working a job, getting a salad. When I look over and see this guy get out of his truck, this big, nice, dually truck, all shined up.
Mm.
I said, "Hey, man!" I didn't know nobody. "What do you do for a living?" He said, "I'm a chainsaw carver." Truck for a chainsaw carver. And I look over and there's a whole parking lot full of these trucks. These guys are doing good. And I think I carved that week. I made like $4,000 or $5,000. And I come home and I had a stump job to do, and I made like $1,800 on the stump job. And I'm like, this is it for me. It's now or never. I believe. I kept thinking about, you got one trip in this life. You got one trip. You get one shot. You get one shot in life.
Right.
Why not do what you want to do? If you can.
Right.
So I knew it was going to be tough, but every year it's got better. Every year I go, there's no way it can get better than it did last year. And every year it does. And I don't know how. I don't know if it can get much better than this year. It's going to be tough to top this year so far. So, yeah.
What have you been up to this year?
We went January, we carved here at the shop. I carved with you a little bit in January. February, we went and we built Jordan Dahl's house, 9,200 square feet. Yeah, I usually don't do that, but I don't build anymore, but I was just trying to help him out,
Yeah.
I really like him and his family. And then we went and we built 37-foot tall buffalo. That was cool.
Can I show off that as well?
Giant, that's my fifth giant. 37-foot tall buffalo. That was my highest paying job ever. That was super cool. I'm gonna shut this door. What's that?
And here's one angle of it. That's the angle that you posted on.
Yeah, that's him.
Let's see. Is it gonna focus? It doesn't like me.
37-foot tall. Yeah.
There it is.
37-foot tall. I think there was 7 of us that worked on him for 21 days. That flagpole.
37 feet tall.
Yeah. The flagpole's about 45 foot tall.
Oh my God. That's amazing. Unbelievable.
So that's the 5th giant I've done. We've done the first one. Me and Andrew did the first one at Chatwin. Then we did world's largest Bigfoot in Keystone. And then we did world's largest Smoky in Hill City. Then we did a 44-foot tall jackalope with a winding staircase inside of it. And walls right behind Wall Drug. I'm sure some of your listeners know where Wall Drug's at.
Oh, for sure.
Me and Kyle carved 71 wood spirits in the post.
On the inside.
Yeah, on the inside. Got on the stairway. So we got this whole thing with the number 71. But yeah. And then we built a log cabin this year, a log cabin gift shop there at the Jackalope. Then we come home and we're trying to carve and produce a load, take back out west, go to Chatwin. I'm also going to later in the year. I'm going to go carve it in South Dakota for a while this year. But I'm going to go to Vancouver to Hope, British Columbia.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm going to carve up there in August. So that's pretty exciting. I do.
That's amazing.
There, but more than compete, I just want to explore the area. I think you explored it on your honeymoon there. So.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah. I'm pretty fired up.
I mean, it's so cool. It's so cool. You'll be there in August, and then you look up, and you'll see snow-capped peaks,
sure.
and it's amazing to see that. I love that.
I was in. It was like just a month ago. I was in South Dakota or so, and it snowed 30 inches one day.
Oh my gosh!
We already have spring and things blooming, and so. So what we're going to do today is too cold to work. So let's go build a big snow buffalo. So we built this big snow buffalo, and that was cool. Yeah, that's him. It ain't focusing, but yeah.
Yeah, it'll take us. I don't know what's going on with it. That's so weird,
Yeah.
Should focus. Come on, there it is.
That's the beauty about part of the attraction to snow carving. And part of the attraction to ice carving is you're not going to make much money at it. So you really got to be passionate about it enough to really enjoy the art. When you go to Alaska and carve the ice, nobody there is walking away with a lot of money because there's,
Right.
but you do it for the love of it and just yeah, it's just so much fun. The Smoky, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
the Smoky's cool.
Let me pull. Let me pull this one up.
Yeah, they're blurry
See
on
if
my
it-
end, but yeah, super cool. Yeah, well, that's all the school kids out there. I love that picture.
There it is. What is going on? There it is. Come on, stay focused. What is going on with that? Let's see if I get in front of it, if he'll do it.
Yeah,
It's always fun watching me try and get this.
thing to focus. Sorry.
Let me see. No, I gotta show this. I can't let this slide because it's so cool. Here, let me see if it goes.
Oh, you're determined, huh?
I'm
There it
determined. There
is.
it
It's
is.
coming close now. Yeah.
And you can, if you look at this,
So it's
you
really,
can literally
really
see.
kind of a neat story.
Look at.
Right after, right after, I guess it's in the 40s, Smokey the Bear was first introduced. You know, they found the little bear in New Mexico, and then the Forest Service took it on as their mascot, right? And so there's a big forest fire there close to Hill City that was gonna, you know, potentially burn down the entire Black Hills. And
Hmm.
the high school boys and girls, way back in the 40s, they decided to, they pretty well left school that day to go fight this fire. The high school kids did. And they were able to put out the fire because of their efforts. And without their efforts, they think the
Wow.
hills would have burnt down in the 40s, you know?
Wow.
So, so they allowed them to use Smokey as their mascot. And so that was
How
the
about
reason
that?
we was able to do that in that town. And then they're the only ones too
Wow.
that are allowed to. They're the only one, only high school in the whole country that can have their high school graduation at Mount Rushmore because of that.
Really?
Yeah, so that's pretty cool.
That is really cool. Can I show off this elephant that you did?
Sure, well, Chris Foltz did it. Yeah, sure. It's here at my shop. Yeah, show it off. I helped Chris. I did the glue up, and I was just his assistant. Yeah, the elephant's super cool. Yeah, we're gonna move that in the shop soon. The elephant's super cool. But yeah, in the wintertime, sometimes we have different instructors come in. You've taught classes here, and then Chris has taught a couple classes, and so we try to have a couple classes every winter just to up everybody's skill level. It's always a good.
That's so much fun. It's the coolest place to teach because you've literally got all these stations that are right out in the in the beautiful hills of Kentucky, and then you've got electricity, you've got light, you've got all the comforts that you need.
Sure.
Um, it's so neat. You have a kid behind who's sweeping up behind you. It's amazing. It's awesome. Here's another picture, if it'll load, of that of that.
No, that's the practice elk, maybe.
Is it?
Yeah. Not many people have seen that one. That's okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's not coming in anyway,
Yeah.
so they'll have to trust me.
Yeah, it's phenomenal, even though you can't see it. How about that?
Yeah, it truly is though. And then my personal favorite, this bear. This is
Oh,
this is his current
that's the
location.
one I gave to you. Yeah, we traded carving.
Yeah, this is in my sauna right now, or next to my sauna, not in my sauna.
I'm really,
But
I'm really proud of my personal carving collection. I was actually thinking about, you know, I don't post near enough, but I was thinking about posting my carving collection and saying,
yeah,
look at this guy. He carved this and it's in my collection. It's not for sale, but it's really cool and I want you to see it.
you have a great carving collection, man. Some fantastic stuff from a lot of my childhood heroes. I mean, the people that I looked up to growing up, and that's so fun.
I got a couple of Jeff Ferris, I got the Ron Adamson. He done
Mm-hmm.
cool. Cool.
Your Jeff Ferris is is an amazing piece
Yeah.
too. All of them are, but that three-dimensional in the round.
Yeah. Yeah. I got to really kind of, Jeff really helped my skill level go way up, you know, especially driving the Native American stuff. Yeah. He made me kind of step
Yeah,
back and think too. There's one time
yeah,
Jeff actually spent a couple winters here carving with me. And
yeah.
there's a scene in Jeremiah Johnson where Robert
Mm.
Redford is talking to the mountain man. You have any idea what month it is, And he's like, I think it's April or maybe it's May. But one morning, me and Jeff, we've been carving like madmen. We just locked ourselves in the shop and have been carving for 3 or 4 months. We got down, we drank our coffee for a half hour without even speaking to each other. And you're really into your work. When I looked over at Jeff and I said, Jeff, you have any idea what day of the week it is? He said, I think it's Saturday. I said, you got to be wrong. It's got to be Tuesday, you know? And I think we was both wrong. It was like a Thursday or something.
You sounded close.
Yeah, but you're loving your work when you don't know what day of the week it
It doesn't even matter anymore. Yeah, that's a great place to be in. I definitely can relate. I've had those days where, um, and part of it's being self-employed, right?
is.
Like,
Sure.
everything kind of blurs together. There's no like, oh, it's Friday. Yes, I'm free.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like, it's Friday. I'm going to work tomorrow. So it's not a big deal, really. It doesn't make that much of a difference.
But the other downside of that is I work like 7 days a week.
Right.
Well, if I'm tired, I go take a nap. I'm hungry,
Yeah.
I go, but I do work. I
Right.
work a lot.
I was surprised at how you eat. You guys, when you're working, I mean, you're making a sandwich. You're eating that while you're looking at a carving. I mean, you guys are you guys are busy. It's on the
Eat
move.
on the go a lot. We've been drinking these smoothies a lot lately. So we're
What's in them?
like putting your standard fruits, strawberries, blueberries. So then we've been putting like spinach into them.
Ooh,
A lot of fruit. A lot of fruit. We've been even putting
nice,
broccoli in them. And then,
nice.
yeah. So that keeps,
That's
they're really
great.
good for, and it seems like the more green you can get into them, the better the energy boost. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yep,
Like maybe a full pitcher a day.
that's awesome. Yeah, I've been doing the smoothies too. I got back into that recently because it's just you can put protein powder
Yeah,
in
we
it
do
and
that
your
now.
fruit in it. Yep, and it just tastes good
Right.
and it makes you feel good.
What do you put in yours? So the protein powder and the fruit.
Yeah. Yeah, so right now I'll do is I'll double up on protein scoops. So trying to get 175 grams of protein in a day. So I'm taking 2 scoops so it turns out to be 50 grams of protein. And then I'll add a cup of berries. Sometimes I'll add a raw egg,
Sure.
just to make it taste really just for the taste. I mean, it's good for you, but we buy our eggs, yeah, from the farm, and there's lots of vitamins in a raw egg, and so there are dangers, if you're just buying them from the store. It's not recommended, but I would do it anyway. And then from there, I'll uh, I'll actually I'll throw in sometimes if I don't have an egg, I'll put avocado in there, and that makes it really creamy
Sure.
too. Um, and then sometimes I'll put some supplements in there like
Sure.
vitamins, or mushroom powder, stuff like that. So
Yeah. They've been loading me with energy. Loading me.
I've definitely it's important. I mean, you can only go for so long, before you burn out because it's such a physical job, carving is.
Like an 8 foot by 30-inch walnut today, and it's just
Really
it's no fun at all. But the finished product is so much nicer.
so nice. So getting into the weeds here, I mean, most of our audience, they're wood carvers, so they're okay with talking about technical stuff. Like what kind of woods do you look for when you're
See, for
chainsaw carving?
production, we use pine. The nicer
Yep.
stuff, I like to carve cedar and walnut and oak. You know, If I had a
Yep.
choice to carve a really high-end piece, it would be walnut or like a pin oak maybe. Different. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Are those harder or softer oaks? I can't remember.
hard oak.
Okay.
Try to steer away from white oak. Red oak,
Yep.
as long
Oh
as it's
yeah.
fairly green, is not so bad. You can probably,
Right.
it is a lot harder than pine.
Yep. Hmm.
Production carving we do pine. You
Yeah.
know, stuff, cedar, walnut. But
And pine is super underrated. People really don't understand, and the problem is when you talk about pine, there's over 100 species,
sure,
so it's hard to know what you're
yeah,
getting. But my first really positive experiences with pine were at your
yeah.
place,
So what I found out,
and
I prefer white pine more than anything else. In my
right,
experience, what grows around here, there's a white pine, a red pine, and a yellow pine. Okay, the
yep,
white pine, they're really white wood, but then
yeah,
it's moist. After you carve a piece, the moisture content leaves it fairly quickly. But the problem is you get a big check usually with that. You got to fix that.
right,
But with the yellow pine, you can carve something, and it'll take it like a year for the water to leave it. So it's less
okay.
likely to crack, but it has some mold problems sometimes.
The
The
pine
yellow
does.
pine.
The yellow pine. Okay.
The way I find I can spot a white pine by looking at it in a log yard. If you look at the end of it, you'll see white sap kind of around the ring. You pick that out
Okay.
in a log yard real fast. Or if it's still standing, or if you can just see the limbs, the white pine, the limbs will grow in a ring and then they'll go up like 4 foot in another ring,
Okay. I tried carving on some spruce recently, and that was not a positive experience. Blue
Yeah,
spruce.
I don't mind spruce so much, but it's got the sap pockets. It's really
Yep.
white and really pretty, and it's a lot
Yeah.
lighter. But the sap
Right.
pockets, they'll just sneak up on you. You'll be in a face
I
and
know it.
you'll just push back a little bit, and then it'll open up this big sap pocket.
Yep. Yep.
And I
Yeah.
really like the eastern red cedar. It's like super,
Oh,
super, yeah. Yeah, I think
amazing.
we're really lucky to even be able to get our hands on it.
But you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a log of it right now from you in my yard, and I'm super excited about getting that thing
Yeah.
carved.
You found some of the
Yeah.
cedar with me. So that's cool.
Yeah. It's amazing. But back to the pine, the white pine is the thing about it that's neat is it's actually pretty stable. Like
Yeah.
I think it has less the radial shrinkage rate of pine, I'm told, is less than most other hardwoods. Like it's pretty
Right.
stable, which is
Yeah,
cool.
it's super nice for yeah, it's super nice under the chisel. You got to buff your tools more. Sappy. But as far as
Right.
stableness, it is pretty stable. Once that initial dry out, you know, so you carve a piece out of a green log and give it 2 weeks, and it's about as dry as it's going to get. You know,
Right.
fix the check in it, and it's pretty stable at that point. Yeah.
It's cool.
Get past that initial couple weeks. Yeah.
You're getting me excited, man. Whenever I talk to you, I get excited about working on bigger stuff because I get so focused on the small things, and I love the small things. But it's fun to I definitely need to make a setup outside
Sure.
for doing larger
For
stuff.
sure. Carports work
Yeah.
good. If you want something quick,
Yeah.
carport can work good.
True.
I got 100 foot by 16 foot of carving pits, and sometimes it seems like it's not big enough, but it works out. It works out.
Those carving pits are the coolest thing, man. It's just so fun to teach and to carve at those because it's the perfect setup.
Right.
It's the perfect setup.
So what have you been into? What'd you get into last weekend?
As far as what? Oh, traveling. Oh, I was into yeah. I was out. I was out Nashville way to see Taylor
Oh
Swift.
wow, I didn't know you was a fan.
Well, my wife is a fan, and I, like many of the other dudes that were at that concert, or all of the dudes at that
Yeah.
concert, were being drugged by their wives, and they were just. I told my wife, I tapped on my wife's shoulder and I just did this,
Sure.
and then I pointed over at all the dudes and every girl with a guy, all the dudes,
Yeah,
no
I had
one's.
to razz you a little bit. The reason I knew you was going is because Josh's girlfriend went, and she was born in Nashville at the
Yeah,
same time you were. So
and you guessed. We talked on the phone, and we were we were. You called me, and I was like, I'm heading down to Nashville. He's like, are you going to see that Taylor Swift
yeah,
concert? And I admitted to it, but people have said, I've heard a lot of converts, a lot of dudes go with their wives or their daughters, and they're impressed. And I felt the same way
sure.
after seeing her perform. It's amazing what the performance that she's able to put on. It's
She's
pretty
at the top
cool.
of her game for a reason. Yeah,
You're right.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It's cool to see the creativity,
sure,
in different
sure.
forms. And so I love music. I'm a big fan of music. So just going there and seeing her do her thing, and I mean, I understand that with a production like that, there's so much that could go wrong, and just seeing a few things go wrong. Yeah, like she came out to play an acoustic song with
Sure,
the person, her opening act, and she was standing there, and then all of a sudden, her audio, her monitor, in-ear monitors went out. She just said, my monitors are out. I need my monitors to be fixed. If someone could come
right,
out, and there's 70,000 people watching her,
sure,
and she can't hear anything. And she's like, let me explain this. Pops them out. And she's like, when I'm down here and these don't work, I hear thousands and thousands of like echoing
sure,
sounds from singing to all
sure,
the speakers. She's like, you can't sing
right.
without these monitors blocking out the sound. And it made me respect what she does, because I've done, I've sung at like a big event, like a big
Sure.
church events when you have in your monitors, and it's super strange. It's a strange feeling to be up there and only be able to hear you and your
Sure.
band. And I don't know. It's a really, people don't understand how much work it is to prance around for three and a
Sure.
half hours straight, singing and dancing, and it's impressive.
The
So,
My last Nashville experience, I found a drafter's desk on
did you
on three of them now. But I found this. I got one in my camper in Tennessee. But I found this drafter's desk in Nashville. And a message got and I said, I'd like to come buy your drafter's desk. And he said, if you can get it out today, I'll give it to you. So I was like, well,
really?
I'm like 2 hours away. So I got in there and I drove to Nashville. And he said, I'm going to meet you at this certain spot, He said, pull into the parking. And so I pull in and, he's there with the desk. I was so fired up to get a free, like, $400 drafter's desk. And I love the desk. It's I was
Yeah.
even more fired up to get it free because I'm an old tightwad. And so it said $25 parking when I went in. Well,
Oh,
I'm only going to be here 2 minutes. I am not paying for $25 parking. So I pulled in there and I pulled in and I loaded the desk and I was in and out of there in like 5 minutes. Well, then I go to South Dakota and I come back home. Guess what's in the mail? $75 parking ticket.
of
So no
course.
free desk for me.
Yeah. It's funny how you pay for it in different
Right,
ways.
right.
Oh man. So yeah, we did that, and we we had, we like to hang out on the way back and take it slow. So we stopped in
Sure,
Louisville, and they had just had the Derby,
sure.
and so it was busy. I mean, every restaurant we pulled into was super busy, and we ended up waiting 3 hours to get our meal sitting in a restaurant. Yeah, yeah. So, but it was cool. We got to see this folk gallery. It's like sometimes, I don't know if you've ever seen like types of artwork that you don't understand and just kind of think like,
Sure,
I want to try and
sure,
understand this better. Like I don't get it.
sure.
But so I decided I was gonna, on the way up, I was listening to a podcast with my wife of the oh, I'm forgetting her name. She's a musical artist, but she said, if there's a genre of music, if there's a type of music that you don't appreciate or don't understand, you should work to try and see at least something about it that you
Sure,
appreciate.
sure, I get that.
And so, yeah. And so I went into this gallery and I looked at some of these paintings and I stared at them and I looked at the description of it and then I tried to find the hidden meanings that they put into the art, and I left really liking the stuff that most people I sent the pictures of the art to were saying, ha ha ha,
Right.
what kind of crap is
Right.
that? And I genuinely thought, man, no, I like this stuff, you know?
There's a lot of
So it's,
different abstract wood carvings that other people do that I enjoy. Try
yeah.
to mix sometimes some abstract bases in. I
Yeah.
never went for a full on abstract carving. Some of my
Really?
friends do really phenomenal and
Hmm.
paid well to do them.
That's cool.
But yeah, maybe I'd like to try one.
That would be, I would like to see that actually. The scale and size would surely alone just make it so interesting, and with your design abilities, your understanding of shape and everything.
Yeah, yeah, I may try that soon. May try that.
That'd be super cool.
I do enjoy trying to make things look like they're floating. Floating in our
Yeah,
sometimes I
yes.
want people to look at my work and go, "Wow, how did you do that?" With a chainsaw. So yeah, those are
That's what I noticed with your bases.
yeah,
Like that first carving that you did, you had it cut so that there was this skirt coming
sure,
down, and it came, and all these edges were very like jagged and organic looking, and there's lots of energy
sure.
in them, and then the base kind of just slides underneath, and you don't know where
Right.
that
Try to
ends, but
just
draws your eye up into the
on the
piece.
chest. If I'm carving a bust, I try to get a positive shape, a negative
Uh huh.
shape, and then a lot of times I
It's
like to
good.
push all that back to where it looks like that's floating. You know, and then
Yeah,
looks like the base and almost the piece are different. Yeah, and then of
I
course different
talk about that
contrast,
with hair too. Like if you've got different, sorry,
different contrasting textures. It helps a lot achieve that floating aspect.
right?
Yeah. Sometimes you can paint the base black.
Yep.
If you got a cedar or pine piece, and that helps even. But yeah,
Do you do that pretty often?
sometimes I do, but I don't feel like I'm getting quite float
Yeah.
on its own. Yeah, I do that pretty often.
Can we talk a little bit? Can we talk a little bit about? I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you. I'm getting excited about wood finishing.
Wood finishing, I tell you what I've been doing lately. I learned it
Yeah.
from.
Did I lose you? Yeah, yeah, we're good.
Okay,
No worries.
I learned this wood finish from a guy in British Columbia, and I really like it for a couple different reasons. Like on the pieces we carve together. If I'm carving a pine piece and I want it to be a higher end pine piece, so what I've been doing, I'll of course get it flap sanded, slick down as slick as I can get it. And then I've been liking to I take a mist, cheap black spray paint. Don't buy the good black spray paint or the cheap black spray paint. And I'll
Is
mist
that
it.
water based or oil
No,
based?
I'll just spray paint. So I'll take
Okay.
it and I'll mist it over the carbon. And then I think a lot of Europeans do this. A lot of the European chainsaw carvers. And then you flap sand it again. So you have these low lights, down in the in the depths. You get more black. And then once you flap sand it, you get these highlights. And then sometimes I'll come back with a finger sander, and I may even sand some really highlights, to bring up the white wood. And it's very subtle, but it makes a huge impact. Somebody that's actually looking at it may not even realize there's any black paint on it.
Huh.
But what it does, it's kind of like drawing with charcoal on toned paper.
Right.
So you got your darkest darks, and then you got your brown paper or your gray paper. But then you can come back and you can highlight different areas with like a white pencil in your charcoal drawing, and you can do the same thing with this technique. And
That's cool.
so it allows you to really brighten up areas. Um, yeah, so that's
So
cool.
you'll just use a black spray paint, and you're not going to build up a full black
No,
color.
you're going to stand way back from the carving and just mist it.
Okay.
And then that. and then you go back and you flap sand it again
Okay.
to knock a lot of that off. A lot of it's there, and it really creates good faces. You know, get
Hmm.
yeah, that's good stuff. And then after that, the finish I've been liking, I learned this from Ken Sheen in British Columbia. He said he does it and it gets a lot less checking. He's taking half water and half Tide Bomb wood glue, and uh, and you mix those together. You use warm water, mixes a little easier, and then you brush coat the entire carving, and then that's going to seal up the pores. Seals up the pores. You got to give it a good 24 hours to dry. But the other thing it does, it water pops it. I don't know if you practice any with water popping,
Uh-uh.
but so you can take and you can plane a board with a planer, right? And it is slick. You think it's as slick as it's going to get, right? But you can actually get it slicker. So then if you'll get that board wet, soak it down, and wipe it off, then it raises that soft grain,
Hmm.
okay? And it'll feel quartz, almost like sandpaper, the
Hmm.
next day after it's dried out. You go back and you re-sand that off, and that's how I found the slickest finish I can get.
Huh.
So this glue and water mixture kind of water pops things. It makes them
Ah.
super coarse, you know, because it raises that soft grain.
Right.
And then I sand it off again, and man, it's a slick, hard finish then. And then the
Huh.
pores are sealed up. And the beauty is, we go through a lot of spar urethane, right? But this works as a first coat of spar urethane. So for $20, I can buy a gallon of yellow carpenter's wood glue. I can mix it with half and half water, so I got 2 gallons there. So I got 2 gallons of product in, and then I don't have to put the $50 a gallon spar on
Right.
for the first coat to seal up the pores.
Right.
So what I found with chainsaw carvings and spar urethane, this is a big thing too. If you're gonna spar a carving, I'd put on a coat of a spar, whether I brushed it on or sprayed it on, and I would
Yeah.
wait like 20 minutes, and I'd put another coat on. Wait 10 minutes, I'd put another coat on. Wait
Okay.
20 minutes and put another coat on, and it was still the shine wouldn't come up on it, you know. So what I
Huh.
kind of learned over the years, a chainsaw carving is essentially almost the same thing as a sponge. You know, just
Hmm.
imagine a big sponge. Now, if you put a coat of spar urethane on that and you wait 10 minutes and you put another coat on, you could put a coat on that sucker every 10 minutes for 2 days. And it's just going to keep pulling it in, right? It's going to
Right.
keep pulling it into that sponge. But if you put a coat of spar urethane on a sponge and you wait for that to completely cure, okay, then the pores are locked up.
Hmm.
So then the pores are locked up and no more can pull into the wood.
Right.
So then your second coat that you put on, we call it standing up. You know, it will stand up and it will show the satin finish or the semi-gloss finish. And you'll save
Right.
yourself a lot of money.
Yeah.
So by putting the glue on for the first coat to lock up the pores, it's actually cheaper for me.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
That's a cool thought, actually. I've never tried that, but I love that idea. It's a
Let's
really
try
cool
the
idea.
water popping. You know, take one of your pine carvings and
Uh-huh.
mix a half water and half glue. When you're completely done with it, and then just water and glue the whole thing. It's supposed to help with checking,
Okay.
to lock up the pores, and then it raises the grain too. So when you go back and wipe them, you get a super nice skin. Yeah.
Okay. Beautiful.
Yeah.
I I love that. I still haven't tried it, but I thought of you today because I was gluing up a bark carving and because it had broken, it split right down the center. And so I brushed the glue on and then I pressed it together.
Sure.
And then because the bark, on the outside is so uneven,
Right.
I had all this glue dripping down the sides.
Sure.
And so all I could think to do is to get a brush with some water
Turn it
and then
down.
just kind of wipe it down with the brush. And then I thought it's kind of leaving a finish. And I was like, well, duh, that's what Abby was talking about. So
They got a super cool finish I found by accident one time. So my son made me this sign, and he used a ebony stain, right? He stained the whole sign. He used a 4-inch
yeah,
brush, polyester brush that was black. So I carved this really nice native piece, but the white of the wood a lot of times is the prettiest. It's just white with no stain, no finish on it.
Right.
So I really wanted to keep this native piece white, you know. So I did decide I wanted to put sand and sealer on it to get it to pop the grain. Sand and sealer will pop the grain too.
Uh-huh.
So I grabbed this brush, black polyester brush,
Uh-huh.
dipped it in the sand and sealer. I thought it was a clean brush. Went right across this Native American's face. You know, the solid black streak where he didn't clean the brush good.
Oh.
Oh my lord, I've ruined this carving. So I'm in panic mode then. And so then I grab a different brush. I realize what would happen. I start thinning it, and I keep working this down. Keep working this down. Well, it made this super cool antique finish.
Huh.
Super cool. Yeah. So that worked out good. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, it's so much of it is like mistakeism, right?
Sure.
Like Miles Davis type stuff. You know, they always say that Miles was he never made a mistake because there weren't any wrong notes. He would just take the note and then he would, you know, if you played a bad note, say, he would work that into the composition and then melodically problem solve to fit that note. So he changed his composition to make that note part of the family, you know, of other notes. And it's like, oh, it's so cool. Just thinking about all the things that you do. You know, people ask in carving, you know, like they ask me like, do you visualize the whole thing? You know, it's a pretty common question when you go to an art show. I'm positive that you've gotten this question hundreds and hundreds of times. And the reality is, for me at least, and tell me if you agree with this, is that it's really not so much a strong, exact vision of what the end result is going to be.
Sure.
It's like it's a bit of a realization. It's a little bit of that
Sure.
mistakeism, you know,
Sure.
like knowing how to rectify things going a different way than you expected.
Sometimes, you know, I do some bad carving sometimes. Sometimes you'll get up and you'll have this grand idea in your head. Kind of think of it like I think of it like a 5-year-old kid thinking he's going to be Superman for Halloween. You know, you got this grand idea in your head. You know, you're going to get your Superman costume. You're going to have the big muscles. You know, your cape's going to be blowing in the wind. And then all of a sudden, you know, your rubber band on your mask breaks. Your Superman suit is way too big. You know, sometimes I get carving just don't work out for me.
Yeah.
But then a lot of times, you know, you'll hit a spot where you make a mistake. And you just make that adjustment and try to make it work. Because you still got to make money. You still got to sell pieces, and sometimes that's the first pieces that sell. Are the pieces
Yeah.
that I think I've made mistakes on.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I won't even be going for something and something to really turn out super nice.
Hmm.
I've been into I've been carving Frankfurt gestures here lately.
Hmm.
Small ones. I spent like an hour on them. There's some super cool gestures
Hmm.
Frankfurt gestures, and some of them are kind of strange, but they're just cool, you know.
Hmm.
And it helps me work on my human form quite a bit.
Hmm.
I don't know how I got there, but anyway.
No, it's cool. That's a good. I mean, ultimately, people are trying to make their stuff better, you know, and it's carving is not carving. People think that carving is just carving, and sometimes, for me, you know, to really improve carving. There are other things that can help that, you know. I mean, it's sort of like guitar playing, right? If you only play guitar for your as a guitar player for your entire life, and maybe you only listen to guitar, the only input that you get is guitar music, you're going to be limited in your ability to be inventive or creative, you know? Like the best guitar players that I know of are the ones who are able to take, like, think about the blues players. They emulated female vocalists of the soul era. I mean, they could make the guitar with a slide sound like Derek Trucks, make it sound like a beautiful female vocalist. And it's like that cross referencing. So if you can, you know, for me, like the stuff that inspires me is paintings. I love I love to look at paintings because, and it's not that I'm sitting down every day and I'm looking at paintings, but drawings, paintings are the things that, going to the Van Gogh exhibit, for instance, I mean, that just jazzed me up to no end.
Sure, I get it. So I believe everyone has this artistic bank account. Okay,
Hmm. Yeah.
and when you create something, you're making a withdrawal from it, and you're
Hmm.
creating a new thing. And I think sometimes as a professional artist, you can exhaust this creative bank account. And at that point, I feel like you got to make a deposit, right?
Hmm.
A deposit it in your creativity or your inspiration. So you've got to go read a book, you've got to go watch a movie, um, and in some cases, like my creative bank account will be shot. It's like I'm having trouble creating. I'm in a funk, you know. And so what I'll do, I'll just stop. I'll go. I don't watch much TV, but I'll force myself to go watch a movie. I do read. I'll read a lot. A lot of the books I read are self-help books, but sometimes I'll read me a book, that's fiction just to get inspired by
Hmm.
something. Sometimes if that creativity bank account's low, you just got to plan a trip. You just got to
Hmm.
plan a trip and go somewhere. And it's great when you can go somewhere you haven't been.
Yeah.
And you'll find that when you get back to carving, you've got your, your creative bank account is loaded with money at that point, And
Yeah. It's huge.
yeah, it is really huge, especially if you ever get in funks. If you ever find yourself in a funk, we all do it sometimes with carvers. Then just stop. Go visit a buddy. Go find a
Hmm.
carver you've never talked to before. Go to his
Yeah.
shop. I know you do it a
Right.
lot. I do it a
Yeah.
lot. Or take a trip. Go to Nashville
Yeah.
to a concert. Whatever you got to do, and
Yeah.
it helps reload that creative bank account. Yeah, and it helps you be more interesting as an artist. I think one of the single most things you can do to sell more art as an artist is to be more interesting. Uh,
Hmm.
let's see. I think Matthew McConaughey talks about
Hmm.
it. He says you can't seem desperate in the Hollywood field, whatever it is. He said he said you got to go out and you got to be more interesting. So what that
Yeah.
means, that don't mean go get a mohawk and spray paint it purple to be more interesting, right?
Right.
That means go to Alaska and carve ice. You know, take a vacation and go somewhere you've never been before that you can talk about.
Hmm.
So I can say, I go over and I do it. I do a show in Indiana every year, and they're always excited to see what I've done and where I've been. I
Yeah.
think we're talking about going to Bali in September to carve with some of those wood carvers, just for
Wow.
inspiration,
Wow.
and just to learn a few of their techniques.
Be amazing.
Yeah. So that's super cool. We've got some contacts, but that's all gonna. It's gonna cost me money,
Yeah.
but it will refill my artistic bank account.
So good. Such a good way of thinking about it.
Yeah, and it'll help me be more interested.
Yeah.
If I come home and I say, well, I've been in Bali carving, and it makes you more interesting, so people want to talk to you, and it's easier to sell a carving.
Yeah.
You
No doubt.
Yeah. So the goal is to be more interesting
Right.
as far as experiences or what, and it's just good living life.
Hmm.
Do something
Yeah.
cool. Go skydiving, or go sailing, or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. Yeah, for even just, like you said, taking a vacation, getting getting away from it even. It doesn't, you can visit someone's shop or you can visit someone's house or even just going off to see a concert and then coming back, after 3 days of being away from home or 4 days.
Sure.
Um, Coming to the material, I get to thinking about it a little bit more. I'm not so in my own body. I'm able to see it from the outside. I drive away from my shop and then I think about what my life is like and the type of things that I produce. And I see it from an outside perspective. and I'm able to, just be a little bit more conscious of maybe what it is that I can do that's different. Maybe not.
I
As,
think one of your greatest assets is perspective.
hmm,
Yeah, and sometimes I think you need the perspective to be able to step outside your own body,
yeah,
look back at yourself and say, "Hey, you're really nailing this. You're doing a good job.
yeah,
But you're kind of slacking in this department. Let's step that
yeah,
up." You know.
right,
Yeah. And so try to step outside your own body sometimes and say, "Hey, how is he doing?" You know. You
hmm,
know, if you had
that's good,
your closest friend or maybe your brother, you know, if they was you, how would you want you to live life? You know,
right,
you want the best for them, but why not
right.
want the best for yourself?
It's good. It's
Yeah,
actually a really good piece of advice. That's I was listening to a guy talk about, as a counselor, talking about that, how, if your internal dialogue, the way you talk to yourself is
sure,
really mean or cruel, the ability to just to say, all right, would I talk to my best friend this way, like when they were struggling, how would I encourage them?
sure.
And then to use that same tone with yourself, at least do yourself the diligence of being kind to yourself.
So this is probably one. I read The Psychology of Sales by Brian Tracy. I
Yeah.
think anybody selling wood carvings needs to read this book. Like it's like
Hmm.
in my top three.
Wow.
But in this book, so wood carving can everybody thinks, wow, he's fantastic, you know, but it can kind of become mundane, especially after 1,000 bears, you know. And so I read this Brian Tracy book, and he says in the Brian Tracy book, he says you got to kind of psych yourself up and be enthusiastic when you go make a sale.
Hmm.
So I tested it. I had a 6 foot bear that I was going to go carve, and I would normally carve that for like $1,500 in and out 4 or 5 hours, you know. But I thought I'm going to try the Brian Tracy method. And so I get so overwhelmed. I get 4 or 5 phone calls a day a lot of times. People wanting me to carve stuff, and I'll never be able to carve it all. But this guy had been wearing me out, so I thought I used to pull up and go, well, you know, I'll carve you a bear. It's $3,000. I don't care if you take it or leave it. And I had no enthusiasm about it because I wasn't enthused to carve another 6 foot bear. I've done so many. It's like God, I can puke if I carve another 6 foot bear. So Brian said you've got to have enthusiasm and passion when you talk to people.
Hmm.
So I get out of the truck and I said, man, wow, look at that white oak tree. That baby is a beauty. In my head, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, white oak. I hate carving white oak. But I go, man, I cannot wait to carve this bear. It's going to be so exciting. It's going to be so much fun. It's going to be the best bear I've ever carved in my life, you know. And I got this, and he looks at me and he says, well, how much do you want for it? And I said, well, I can do it for $4,500 a day. Cut you a deal, you know. He said, okay, I'll take it. But had I pulled in there and been like, well, I'll carve it, $1,800, take it or leave it, you know, I don't care if you
Right.
do or not, with no enthusiasm or with no passion, then that guy's going to say, well, I don't think I can afford it, you know.
Hmm.
And I've been on both ends of that so many times, you know.
Hmm.
Also, while we're on here, I want to talk about there's 4 or 5 questions people subconsciously, I've told you this before, they subconsciously ask themselves when they're buying a chainsaw card. Sales is a whole nother gamble. It's not a whole nother gamble. It's a whole nother technique you got to do to be a woodcarver.
Right.
But so these are the 4 or 5 questions I've realized that people ask themselves when they buy a wood carving. Number
Right.
one, do I dig the wood carving? You know, yeah, I dig Alec's face. You know, as Green Man carving, I really dig it. You know, I really want it. So you
Right.
know they want this wood carving. The number 2 question is, where would I put the wood carving? You know, well, I'd hang it right
Right.
here by my office door. Number 3 question is, can I move the carving? That's a big deal with chainsaw carving.
Right.
You know, you can have a big, massive carving, but if you or them can't move it, So I always try to help the person move the carving.
Mm.
A little old couple. Uh, I'll say, well, you know, I'll help you move the carving as long as you don't want it on the roof or on the third floor. And so, can I move the carving? Number four is, can I afford the carving? Uh, and then there's a
Hmm.
number five question too that is, can I justify buying this carving to my friends and family? You know, or my loved ones. You know, so they got to be able to justify spending any certain amount of money on artwork for their friends and family.
Good. Yeah.
And if any of those questions are a no, then the sale's off. The sale's no good. You've lost the sale. You know. So
That's so true.
you
We
try
we
to answer
definitely. Go ahead. Sorry.
try to answer those questions for the people in the course of the conversation.
Yeah. That's so good. Yeah, I'm taking notes, by the way.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that's why I'm looking down at the table.
Go a lot deeper into it. But yeah, get a sales book. Get psychology of sales.
Is that what the book is called? Psychology of Sales.
Brian Tracy. It's on Audible. Another thing he does, he tells you to psych yourself up. This was the dorky part I was going to tell you about. So when I'm
Yeah.
getting ready to pull up to a job to bid a job, I just bid a job for $45,000 like a week ago. And be honest with you, it takes some balls to do that. It's like
It does.
it really does. But I've also learned you're not going to get it unless you ask for it, right? You're
Yeah.
not going to get it. You're not gonna win the competition unless you show up. If you don't show up, there's no way you can win it, right?
Yeah.
So so you got to psych yourself up. In the car on the way there, I'll go, man, I'm a good wood carver. Even if I'm having a crappy day and I just carved the worst carving I've ever carved in my life, I'll psych myself up and I'll say, man, you're a good wood carver. You're a wonderful wood carver. You're you know, you're doing really well. There's a reason these people, and so I'll psych myself up and I'll give myself all this. And then you go in there and you don't, when you say the 45,000, you don't say, well, what do you think about 45,000? You just let it flow out. Just like, just like, wow. And you never tell them a price. You always wait for them to
Huh.
ask you the price. It's weird.
Hmm.
And so when he says, well, what do you think it costs? And I'll say, without missing a beat, I go, well, it's going to be about $45,000 to get all this done. And you'll watch when you say it with confidence in the flow. They just say, okay, sounds good. When can you start? And that's the good stuff. But if you go in there not confident and you know and unsure, and
Right.
and it's important on some of these jobs to have really nice sketches.
Hmm.
And yeah, I don't know how we got on this rabbit hole, but
It's so
anyway,
good. It's amazing.
we could talk about
It's
sales for a while.
well, it's helpful because I mean, I know a lot of people get angry at me when I talk about sales and selling stuff, and I'm definitely not an expert in it. I mean, but if you're making carvings, the few of us out there who are making carvings for a living,
Sure.
or those of us out there who want to, this stuff is important. So no doubt,
Anyway,
you're good. You're good, man. Yeah. Well, is there anything that you want to plug? Is there anything that you want to?
yeah, there is. So I'm reading this right now by Steve Backus. Okay,
Uh
oh, you got to be
huh.
kidding me. By Steve Backus. Steve's one of my friends.
Really?
Uh, yeah, it's just good stuff. It's stories about him growing up. His mom was a chainsaw carver, and
Really?
so I'd say just about every piece of food that Steve's ever put in his mouth since he was little has been through chainsaw carving money, which is a big deal. He's kind of a historian.
Wow.
Yeah, this book's $10 on Amazon. Check it out. It's got some good stories. Uh, yeah, some really fun stories. So if you're into chainsaw carving, into logging, into wood carving, check that book out. That's a good one.
Steve Backus?
Steve Backus. Yeah.
How do you spell Backus?
Backus.
All right.
Yeah, it's an entertainment book for sure. But there's some
That's cool.
history in it too. And then, yeah.
That's beautiful. Well, you're the one who got me turned on to digesting so many audiobooks through Audible, and
I have an extreme thirst for knowledge.
yeah,
You gotta,
yeah,
you gotta constantly looking for that little golden nugget of knowledge. Sometimes I'll read a whole audio book, and if I just get one little gold nugget out of it, it was worth the time. You know, it can
yeah,
change your life. I wish I would. You know, I've read my whole life, but I haven't read ferociously my whole life.
right.
And now with Audible, I'm able to, I'm able to carve and listen to books. It's
So good.
just, man, it's
It's
just,
huge.
if I could give anybody two things, it would be that is, well, two. If I could give a wood carver two things, it would be the passion and desire to want to carve. Because
Right,
I've seen a lot of talented carvers, super talented right off the gate, but they might not have the passion or the drive.
right,
And this is more like me, I consider like. And then I've seen, halfway talented guys that work really hard, but they got the passion and they got the drive.
hmm.
And in a matter of years, they'll surpass those guys that are super talented because
So true.
they're going to work at it. They get up in the morning and they work until they go to sleep. And the
Yep.
other thing, the other gift I would give them is passion and drive, but then I would just give them, hey, read,
Hmm.
read financial books, read self-help books, read any entertainment book, whatever. You're going to learn something
Right,
in every book you read.
right.
So if a guy writes a book, he's got his life poured into that book.
Yeah,
He's got it condensed down into a book, all of his life lessons. So why not
hmm.
take a couple hours, read this book?
Right.
It's just, it's like free. It's almost like a drug, I
Yeah.
get really wound up and almost catch this high off of reading. As crazy as that sounds.
Yeah, it's a distillation of all of the bits of importance in someone's life.
Sure,
Everything that they've learned,
sure,
they're forced to condense that down
sure,
into just a few pages.
sure. And that's where all the good stuff's at. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. It's pretty awesome.
So definitely,
Well, that's fantastic.
I would say the psychology of sales is a must read for a wood.
Yeah, yeah. It's beautiful.
All right. Well, it's good talking, Alex.
Man, I enjoyed it.
Maybe we'll do it again sometime.
I'd love to, Abby. Anytime you're feeling it, man, I'd appreciate it. I appreciate all the bits and goodies that you've given us too from this conversation. So I've got some notes that I'll definitely be
ADHD
referencing.
gets me going one direction or the other.
That's why we get along, dude.
Sure.
No, that's the point. I mean, that's the whole format is just the ability to chat and enjoy it. So
Good
thanks for
stuff,
doing it,
man.
man. I appreciate your time.
Good stuff. All right. Thanks.
I'll see you.